What if your own ego is limiting your success and not only your chances or talent in life? Ego is the idea or opinion you have of yourself, and it certainly can be a huge driving factor behind your success. But it can also give you false confidence while you're trying to achieve a goal, make you entitled or delusional when you succeed, and completely destroy you if you happen to fail. This is precisely what Ryan Holiday explores in his book, Ego is the Enemy, and we're going to dive deep into it so that you can avoid your own ego sabotaging your own success. Be honest with yourself. Do you have a goal you have been actively trying to achieve, but you always end up in a cycle of starting and quitting? What if you keep being in this cycle because you think that you can achieve your goal in the future, so quitting now doesn't really matter, as it doesn't crush your dream, but only delays you from achieving it? Think about what would happen to your actions if you would realize that you are never going to achieve your goal with the current effort you're putting in. The problem is that we might not always have a realistic view of where we are and how much there is to learn to end up where we want to be. Imagine if you were to define your goal and the steps to reach it with such clarity that quitting would feel almost absurd, because you would be aware of how much each moment of hesitation prolongs you from achieving that goal. Ego wants you to get you to your goals quickly. You have probably heard the phrase, fake it till you make it. While this approach might help you get started, in the long term, it is nothing more than a mask for the things you should actively try to improve. The person who is able to realistically examine themselves, which can be very uncomfortable, is going to end up in a better place in the long term than the person who thinks they can fake it. In order to realistically examine yourself, you need self-awareness, to see yourself from a distance, to get out of your own head. Only this way you're humble enough to realize that you need more practice and skills to improve. Self-awareness does not mean you can't have big goals, but having big goals and thinking big does not mean that you forget about small actions either. Oftentimes, the idea of being excites us more than the doing. Do you dream of being an artist? Imagine creating something from scratch, your hands covered in paint, all while dealing with self-doubt and endless artistic frustration. Or perhaps you aspire to be an entrepreneur. Picture yourself pouring your savings into a startup with 90% chance of failing while tirelessly working to develop a product that is crushed by all the regulations in the market. Or maybe you want to become a lawyer. Envision yourself buried under a pile of legal texts, studying complex cases and statuses that seem nearly unreadable at first glance. On social media, it is easy to project the image of who you want to be. The reality of sacrificing sleep to meet a deadline, dealing with constant rejection, or facing the frustration of mastering a skill often remains hidden. While being someone may appear glamorous, it is the doing that lays the foundation for true accomplishment and fulfillment. The doing means that you're constantly learning like a sponge that absorbs everything. It does not allow any room for your ego, as there is no one to perform for, only work and lessons to be learned. What can really separate you from others in terms of learning is the ability to take harsh and critical feedback, because it leaves no room for your ego, the ideal self of you. It is uncomfortable to get critical feedback and evaluate yourself, because you might find out that you're not as skilled as you think. The fastest way is to look brutally at the truth and learn, adjust, and keep working. See clearly where you are talented and where you need to improve. When you're early in your journey, you will often be ignored, which can be a good thing because you can work in silence without distractions. But it is only after you get successful that your ego will be truly tested. Ego and pride are natural after achievement and recognition, but it is important to not get caught up in these feelings. The only way to maintain your success is to keep being a student, because you're never going to be secure with the knowledge you acquired earlier. Keep being out of your comfort zone, continuing on those principles that got you here in the first place. It is crucial to know what exactly you want, as your ego wants you to have it all, to get more recognition, to make more money, to take on too many projects. Do not compete with other people, but just concentrate on yourself. It's not about having more than others, it's about staying true to yourself without letting external things draw you away from it. No matter how busy you are, always remember to reflect. What was the reason you started? What is your purpose? Sometimes taking time off to seek perspective is the best thing you can do to yourself. Maybe that's flying on an airplane to remind yourself how small you actually are and how what you do does not really matter in the grand scheme of things. Sometimes you might just need the luxury of silence that you don't have in your busy everyday life. When you're trying to create something from scratch, like in art or entrepreneurship, you will have to ignore all of your doubts and the doubts of other people around you. You're taking a risk with no certainty. Those traits can be seen as foolish from the outside, especially when you haven't succeeded yet. If you happen to succeed, your ego wants to prove doubters were wrong, but this makes you really lose control and gain entitlement. Remember that this was probably not the reason why you started creating something. It is an illusion that things are easier once you're successful and that you can take the foot off the gas. For example, as you move up the corporate ladder, the expectations and responsibilities increase significantly. While entry-level positions may involve straightforward tasks with clear guidelines, higher positions often require navigating complex interpersonal dynamics, decision-making with greater stakes, and managing teams with diverse opinions. Mistakes, which may have been overlooked at lower levels, can have substantial repercussions. Even in creative pursuits, artists or authors who find success may feel stifled by the need to replicate their success. The pressure to produce work that lives up to previous acclaim can lead to anxiety, creative blocks, or a fear of not being original anymore, complicating the creative process and incrementally killing the artist's passion. The point is to never take success for granted, because there will be shifts in your life. Sometimes you need to learn a lesson through failure, which can be a huge blow to your ego. No one will be permanently successful. Perhaps your goal was harder to achieve than what you thought. You might not get into your dream university, you might not get selected for a project, you might not get your dream job. Someone might get these things instead of you. Setbacks are part of the process. Your ego might feel entitled and likes to think about what is fair and what is not. But we can't depend on the fact that life always goes how we expect it to go. Things can go wrong even if you do everything correct for a long time. In fact, true resilience is doing everything that it takes to succeed for a long time and not giving up even when you have no results to show. Your ego won't accept anything less than full appreciation. So in this stage, you have to cultivate an immense belief in yourself and your purpose. Otherwise, you will give up too easily. Once you put your project on the market, like selling art or any product, you can't really control how people will perceive it. If you rely on validation, your ego might get crushed. Focus on the things you can control. With the right motives, you will proceed even if you don't receive the results you were expecting. Pushing through the stage when no one is clapping is really crucial. Many people fear failing. Sometimes failing can be a good thing. It reminds you of what actually matters. It shows you that you don't need to be successful all the time. It helps you grow and not care so much. Many significant life changes happen right after failure. It forces your ego to die. It can crush your self-esteem, but it can also give you the opportunity to become mentally stronger and to start over. Making mistakes is normal. People start companies that fail. People try to create art from scratch that no one wants to buy. That's all fine and part of life. The problem is not that you take risks and fail. The problem is that you might attach your identity to the outcome of what you're doing. Meaning if you fail, you lose yourself in the process, and that is because you're solely relying on external validation. Remember, only ego makes failure and embarrassment bigger than what it actually is. Many people have gone through a lot of failures but still had impressive careers afterwards. If you happen to fail at something, shift the focus on your potential and not the results you have right now. Winning is not everything. Hold yourself against the highest standard that you can. If you don't give your best, no one will know. However, deep down you will always know, which is enough. So if you did everything you could, you should be proud of yourself even if you happen to fail. You will always learn lessons when you fail. Will and force will not always make you succeed in the end. That is just something you have to accept. And being self-aware helps you recover faster from failure and helps you learn all the necessary lessons in your journey. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this video, it is to become a lifelong learner. This way you will stay humble in your aspiration, successes, and in your failures.